presented by two of our amazing assistant principals, and I will let them introduce themselves to you. Our primary students in K2 do not take the Georgia Milestones, so we are instead going to share some test taking strategies for you for the assessments that primary K2 students do take. So we hope that you find this helpful, and we'll have some time at the end of their presentation to help you and answer your questions as well. So thank you again for coming.
Hi, welcome. I'm so glad everybody got in here, that we got those breakout rooms situated and fixed so you all could join. So again, welcome to our breakout session with primary. We are going to be, like Ms. Bailey said, talking about specific test taking strategies that we implement here in primary. Our primary students do not take the Georgia Milestones, so we don't have any information specific to that, but we are going to be talking about strategies that we use here in primary. So I am Amanda Mills. I'm the primary assistant principal for curriculum and instruction. And then Dr. Bishop will be helping. Yeah, there she goes.
Good afternoon, families. Thank you for joining us tonight. We are so glad to have you. I see some familiar names here on our attendee list, so welcome back, and welcome to those families that this is your first Parent University. We're happy to have you. We hope that you find this session tonight beneficial, and these test-taking strategies will be useful for you and your kiddos in primary grade bands. I'd also like to give a shout out to our teachers. I see some teachers in our session tonight. So welcome, and thank you for joining us for your support tonight.
So we're going to get started. Our agenda, what we are going to be covering tonight, we're going to look at the different assessments that we do take in K-2. So even though we don't take those milestones assessments, what assessments are your K-2 students taking throughout the year? So we're going to look at that. We're going to look at specific test-taking strategies that our teachers use with the students in class and that you can be using with your students at home when you're working with them. And then we will have a time at the end for questions to answer if we can for you and help you in that way. So I want us to start with our K-2 assessments. And there are some assessments that are the same across all of our grade levels in K-2, and then there are a few differences. So for kindergarten, they take the Georgia Kindergarten Inventory of Developing Skills. You've probably heard that referred to as GKIDS. That's how we most of the time refer to it when we are talking about that as well. So this is a performance-based assessment. The teachers are assessing your students, your kindergarten students, on these skills throughout the entire school year. So it's ongoing, and this is for all subjects, including your electives for PE and art. So they get 1s, 2s, 3s, or 4s as their score for each of these standards. And again, this is ongoing throughout the year. So this is the main assessment piece for kindergarten, and how we kind of look at their progress and how it's building on each other on that throughout the year. They take the MAP growth, so that's for reading and math, and then MAP reading fluency. So we do that 3 times throughout the year. The first one is in August or at your enrollment. So if you were not a family that was here with us at the very beginning of school, your student took this MAP growth test when you guys enrolled. So they have that for their enrollment or in August at the very beginning of the year. And then we also do this a mid-year one in December, and we will do a final MAP assessment at the end of the year in May. So the main focus for MAP is to measure growth. So yes, you do get a score. You do kind of get a norm reference as to where your child scores and ranks along with other students their age. But what we want to focus on, what we put our focus on here, is measuring the growth throughout the year. So where they started and are they making progress from there in these different administrations. And then this is something that we've started in second semester. So our ticket out the door assessments, these are quick checkpoints that are done in class. And they're focusing on standards that are currently being taught or standards that have already been taught but are needing review. So we use the data that we have from these other assessments and the data that your teacher has, and they build these ticket out the door assessments with our content administrators. And again, they're just quick checkpoints. These are completed in class with their teacher. For first grade, this is when they start taking interim assessments. So we usually refer to those as IAs. And these interim assessments, they cover standards taught during that instructional cycle. So we kind of have our year broken up into 6 different instructional cycles. And so they take a total of 6 IAs throughout the year. So we have already taken 4 of them. We're currently in instructional cycle 5. So our next interim assessment will be IA 5. These are taken independently to assess students' ability to access grade level content and curriculum. So that does include reading the test on their own, answering the questions on their own. These are done independently. So the teachers are able to monitor them. We take these assessments in class so the teachers can monitor them, help with troubleshooting and anything like that. But these tests are completed independently by the student. They also take that MAP reading and math growth as well as the MAP fluency. And again, that's the same time frame, August and then December and May. And then they also do the ticket out the door assessment. So focusing on quick checkpoints, these are completed in class. And the teachers, again, help make these, and it's focusing, these are usually quick, about 5 to 10 questions at the most, but usually around 5 for our kiddos. And focusing on standards that are currently being taught in class and then those standards that are needing review. And second grade also takes our interim assessment. So again, they have the same amount. We take those at the same time, and they are also taken independently. So our second grade students are responsible for reading these completely on their own and answering their questions independently. So teachers can monitor them and help out as needed with troubleshooting, but these are taken independently. Something that is specific to our second grade students is Write Score. So this is an assessment that tracks their progress with writing. It's given twice a year, and it's kind of a progression. So they have a reading passage with some questions that go along with that, and then they write a response based on a prompt that they are given. So these are sent off, if you will. They're scored by Write Score themselves using a rubric. And again, these are given twice a year. I think we just did the second one in our last IA in that testing week. They completed their second one. They also do the MAP growth for reading and math and fluency. Again, that's 3 times a year, August, December, and May. And then they have the ticket out the door as well. So collaborative with the teachers and our administrators making those, and those are quick checkpoints that are covering what they're studying, standards currently being covered in class, and then standards needed for remediation and reteaching and reassessing. So those are the assessments that we have. And so we're going to go over some strategies that you can do with your child if you're helping them, when you're helping them on their assignments or module work or anything like that. These are strategies that many of our teachers practice as well in class with them. And so if you are ever helping them with their work or see them maybe struggling on some things, here's some strategies that should be able to help you when you are helping them with their work.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Mills. I know that information was very beneficial for our families, and I love how you had it broken down by grade level. So I appreciate that. And you are right. Now we will discuss some test taking strategies that students are familiar with. They see these in classes, maybe one or more or all of them, just depending on the teacher's preference as to the test taking strategies that they teach. But all of these are beneficial and useful, and I wanted to share them with you tonight so that when you're working with your students as learning coaches, that you can help implement these test-taking strategies as well. The first strategy is called process of elimination, And this is just where you get rid of the answers that you know are incorrect. So when you look at your answer choices, there are normally one or two that are automatically that the student can recognize that are not an option as the answer choice. So you can mark those out, get rid of those, and narrow down your choices. And the process of elimination strategy really just increases the chance of getting the right answer, because the easier choices that you can eliminate increases the probability of getting the right answer. So for here, the sun is a hard rocky planet. Well, we know that the sun is not a planet, so we can get rid of that. And then if you look at choice D, all of these answers are correct. That one is automatically not an option because choice A was not an option. So just by eliminating those two choices, we now have a 50-50 chance to get the correct answer. Another strategy that we teach is the use of context clues. So look for clues in the text that will help you figure out the correct answer. Clues may be in the directions, in the passage, or in the answer choices. And I also always encourage my students and even my own child. I have a second grader, and we practice these test taking strategies all the time to look in the pictures. A lot of times, your pictures, your visuals will also help you find your answer choices. If you see me glancing to the left, my screen is really small here, and I have a bigger monitor on the left, so I'm able to see the text just a little bit larger there. So which picture matches the underlined word? Erin is a cheerful student. Okay, so just by looking at your pictures here, you're able to use your context clues, and you're looking for the word cheerful. Here we have an anchor chart for text detectives for context clues. Basically just saying the same thing. Use your picture clues, read around the word for clues, look for examples, refer back to your directions. Use all the information that you've been given to help you find your answer. And when you are working with your students at home, this is a great strategy to practice and try and think through and talk through those steps. I also encourage the think aloud strategy a lot. That's not on here as one of our slides, but I model a lot for my kids and for my daughter on the thinking process of how to use these strategies. So that's something that you can practice at home as well. Read questions and answers first. This is a newer strategy that has become more and more popular in the last few years, and I think it's very beneficial, especially a lot of times when there's a larger passage like this one here on citizenship. We naturally want to just start reading the passage, and then sometimes by the end of the passage, we've kind of forgotten what we've read sometimes, or our students have. So if you'll encourage your students to come look at the questions first, read over the questions, and then read the passage second. And this basically just alerts the brain that those are the questions that you're looking for. And then whenever they read the passage, that information stands out to them a little bolder than if they had read the passage first. It lets them know exactly what they're looking for whenever they go to read the passage. Another test taking strategy that we practice in class and that you can practice at home is to underline or highlight the key vocabulary. So locate the important words or phrases in the text or in the questions that's being presented to you. So the highlighted words bring the focus of the topic to the forefront of your mind and your brain, and then whenever you are looking for your answer choices, then it's easily recognizable for you to go back, or for the students to go back and look at those vocabulary words that were highlighted or those main topics that were highlighted. This is also a great way to incorporate vocabulary. So the main topics or the main vocabulary words in the text or in the questions, you can create flashcards and practice vocabulary that way. Or some teachers even use this with interactive vocabulary walls in the virtual classroom setting. So this is a pretty common test taking strategy to underline or highlight. Okay, and then the plug-in strategy, you see this a lot of times in math, but you can also see it in other contents, but math, it's pretty common. So you're testing out each answer choice by plugging in your choices to see which one is correct. So instead of solving one math problem here, essentially you would really be solving 4. So you would test out A to see if it's correct, test out B to see if it's correct, C, and then D. For me and my kiddos and my personal child, like here, the example A was correct, but I also encourage to go ahead and test out B, C, and D just to double check for accuracy. Just in case there happened to be an error there in A whenever you test it out, when you plugged in to test out for your answer choice there. And of course, the probably most well-known test-taking strategy there is to read and reread. It's very important to read the directions again, to read the passage again, read the questions and the answer choices. If you're unsure about your answer, look for clarifying information that will help you pick your best answer. Here you'll notice if a student just quickly read this, which of these is not one of the 4 seasons. The keyword there is not, of course, but it's very common and very likely that a student may read this and say which of these is one of the four seasons. So it's important to reread the passage and the questions and the directions just to make sure for your correct answer. What are the states of matter? Choose all that apply. This is very common to be tricky for students to choose all that apply. Sometimes, our students just want to choose one answer, but here it's very specific that you have to choose more than one answer, all of those that apply there. So reading and rereading is definitely a strategy that's very beneficial and very tried and true and tested that it is successful. And then for our testing week that Ms. Mills went over, our tests that we have here in primary grade bands, we do not have the milestones, but we do have tests that we can prepare for and teach test taking strategies for. So this is just a little strategy to share for motivation at home. We receive a lot of questions about this and know that our learning coaches want to be supportive and be the most helpful that they can and how they can support their students during this time. And here are just a couple of suggestions that you can do during test taking weeks here at GCA with your primary kiddos. One suggestion is to have some fun at home after the assessment is completed. So our schedule is set up that we have a large block of time in the mornings so that our tests are not interrupted and they do not have distractions. So after that time, you normally have a break before we have afternoon sessions that you can have some fun with your kiddos and create, an expectation for that and some excitement for that. So maybe once testing is over, you might go outside for a picnic, or you might have, some movie time, playing a popcorn and movie, for after testing. Or if you do not have time before your afternoon classes, that would be something to look forward to after classes that day as well. But just something special. We know testing week can be tiresome, but a lot of the attitude and the perception of testing week we know is affected by our mindset. So just keeping a positive attitude that week and encouraging your students and having some fun embedded will definitely help those testing weeks. Have a reward for your student to look forward to. Like we said, this doesn't have to be something that is, purchased. Just what would your child enjoy? I'll tell you a little personal story just to go back to the mindset. Last night, my husband was saying that school is so long that really, and not referring to GCA, just school in general. My daughter does not actually go to GCA yet, but we're considering that. But I will just say that, just school in general is just a long day for primary kiddos. And so this morning, and my daughter heard him say that this morning, she gets up and she's like, Mom, it's such a long school day. She said it really shouldn't be this long. So they hear us and they follow through with that mindset that we have and that we share. So I always, Fridays for her are big testing days, and she is always like, I don't want to do my spelling test. I don't want to do my reading test. So I try to turn that mindset to a positive, that I'm so excited to see, how well she can do. And I know that you do that with your students at home too. So just remember that the mindset that we share with our students is also how they feel about it too. And then here is a link I'll put this in the chat for you. These are just some fun incentives that you can try at home with you and your kiddos. Of course, you can do this anytime, but refer back to this, bookmark this, and our next testing week, maybe you can try some of these activities with your child. And that is it as far as testing strategies goes. We just had a few there that we wanted to share with you, and hope that you are able to practice some of those at home and help support us in those practices that they practice in the class. At this time, we will open up to questions and answers, and we hope that we'll be able to answer your questions. If you have a question, if you'd just like to raise your hand, we will call you by name and we will try our best to help you. Is the chat open, Ms. Mill? Are they able to ask questions in the chat as well?
Locked it for you guys.
Okay, thank you. So if you would rather ask a question in the chat, that is fine as well. If you would like to come on the mic and ask a question, you are welcome to raise your hand and we will call on you for that.
I do see some of you typing in the chat, and that's totally fine. If you want to hang around, we're staying in here. And if you want to hang around to ask your questions, you can. If you have other students, if you have students in other grade bands and you wanted to visit another room, feel free to do that as well. But I do see some questions coming in the chat. And then again, if you would like to come on mic with your question, you can use your feedback tools at the bottom. It's the little smiley face, and we will call on you that way. But we are hanging out here to help and assist you however we can. So feel free to hang out and bring your questions in the chat, or we can answer them on mic as well. I see the question in the chat about IAs not being read to students. So again, that is part of the focus. We want to be building a foundation and giving them those opportunities that they're going to need as they advance through, to be able to read and comprehend information and use that information independently for themselves. For our first graders, they do it's a gradual release for our first graders. So they do start the year with the test being read to them, and then gradually through each assessment, it's given over to them to do more and more independently each time. For second grade, it is all year they do read it independently. And again, that is to see, to get a true representation of what they are able to do on their own, without the assistance of someone else, with with the reading, the understanding the words, the vocabulary, things like that. And yes, MAP. There's a MAP reading test which assesses reading skills, and then there is a MAP fluency test that is just specific to fluency. So it does record them reading a passage. So there are two different reading MAP assessments. One is specific to fluency. Yes.
Anyone would like to hop on the microphone, feel free. We'd love to hear your voice tonight. And I want to thank our teachers again for coming this evening. Our primary teachers are the best, we believe, and we know. You all have a great evening. You're welcome to go ahead and log out if you are ready to, and we will see you tomorrow. Thank you again for coming.